Look at what just happened at Saudi Aramco's massive Tanura refinery, because this development is pushing the Middle East war into a labyrinth of strategic deception. A drone attack has paralyzed the oil lifeline of Saudi Arabia. But the crucial question isn't what burned, but who actually pulled the trigger. Immediately following the explosions, a senior Iranian military official issued a bombshell statement via the Tasnim news agency. The attack on Aramco was not carried out by Tehran. Instead, they alleged this was a false flag operation orchestrated by Israel itself. Analyze the brutal logic behind this accusation. Iran asserts they are entirely transparent about targeting U.S. and Israeli interests. But Aramco was not on that list. According to Tehran, Tel Aviv launched those drones themselves to create a geopolitical trap, aiming to drag Arab nations into the conflict and distract the world from the strikes Israel is raining down on Iranian soil. While Saudi Arabia immediately suspended operations at the facility, they maintained a haunting silence regarding the perpetrator's identity. They did not name Iran. They did not mention Israel. What does that silence tell us? It shows that America's Arab allies are in a state of absolute panic. If this truly is a false flag operation, as Iran claims, then the trust between Israel and the Gulf nations has been shredded at the exact moment they need each other most. Iran even went further, warning that the UAE's port of Fujairah would be the next target in this dark Israeli script. Tonight, the black smoke from Ras Tanura does not just signal an energy crisis. It is a fog covering an irreparable fracture within the anti-Iran alliance in the Middle East. Go deep with me into a piece of information that is rocking intelligence agencies from Washington to Riyadh. Because if this is true, the entire structure of U.S. alliances in the Middle East is on the brink of collapse. American journalist Tucker Carlson has just issued a bombshell claim. Saudi Arabia and Qatar have arrested agents of the Mossad intelligence agency on their soil. According to Carlson, these agents were allegedly planning bombing attacks within these very Gulf nations. Why would Israel want to commit bombings in countries that are supposed to be on the same side against Iran? Are they truly on the same side as we have been led to believe? Carlson alleges that Israel is deliberately sowing chaos among America's Arab allies. The logic here, as mad as it sounds, carries a brutal geopolitical hue. By creating staged attacks and blaming Iran, Israel could force the Gulf states to abandon their neutral stance and fully commit to a total war against Tehran. This is where things become extremely complicated for the Donald Trump administration. Carlson recalled being detained at Ben Gurion Airport with his team following an interview with Ambassador Mike Huckabee, serving as a reminder of the friction even in personal dealings with Israeli officials. If the information about the Mossad arrest is accurate, it explains why Saudi Arabia has remained so silent about the Aramco perpetrator. They cannot name Iran if they just caught the agents of an ally planting bombs in their own backyard. Tonight, the biggest question in the Middle East is no longer what will Iran do next, but are America's allies silently tearing each other apart behind the curtain of war? The image is spreading from Tel Aviv tonight because we are witnessing the collapse of a legend. For decades, the Iron Dome air defense system has been marketed as an invulnerable shield, the technological pride protecting Israeli citizens from every threat in the sky. But on day 3 of the war, the truth became naked and brutal. Multiple Iranian ballistic missiles punctured the world's most sophisticated defense network right in the heart of the city. Fiery streaks that are not being intercepted but instead plunging directly into densely populated areas, creating massive explosions that shake the skyline. At least one direct hit has been confirmed within Tel Aviv. Israeli police have issued urgent warnings, telling residents not to approach impact sites not just because of fires, but due to the fear of unexploded cluster munitions scattered across the ground. Why did a billion-dollar system fail against these attacks? Military experts point out that Iran utilized a highly sophisticated saturation tactic, launching waves of missiles and drones simultaneously to overload the air defense computer's processing capacity. When the number of targets exceeds the interceptor battery's ability to engage, heavier and faster ballistic missiles find the gaps to slip through. Tonight, the sense of absolute safety for the people of Tel Aviv has been shredded. When the iron shield cracks, the question is no longer how hard Israel can strike back, but how long they can stand under Tehran's relentless waves of missiles. Analyze this terrifying escalation, because the war is no longer confined to the borders of Israel or Lebanon. Tonight, the conflict has officially spilled over to the other side of the Gulf. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, has just claimed responsibility for what they call a complex attack, utilizing both missiles and drones targeted directly at U.S. forces stationed in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Look at the operational diagram just released by Tehran. It wasn't just Dubai. A wave of 10 suicide drones was launched directly at the Arafjan base in Kuwait, one of the U.S., the military's most critical logistical hubs in the region. According to the Iranian statement, these devices struck their targets with precision. While Washington and Kuwait have yet to provide official confirmation on the extent of the damage, Iran's public strike against two nations that have tried to maintain neutrality is a thunderous message. Not a single square centimeter in the Gulf is safe as long as the United States continues to support Israel. Meanwhile, in Qatar, the situation is no less suffocating. Their Ministry of Defense announced they had to activate emergency operational plans to intercept two ballistic missiles just before they could enter Qatari airspace. This event reveals a brutal reality. The Gulf nations are being dragged into the vortex of a war they never wanted. Tonight, as the skies from Dubai to Kuwait light up with anti-aircraft fire, the world must wonder if this is the beginning of a third Gulf War, a conflict where every oil infrastructure and military base becomes a pawn in Tehran's life-and-death game. Look at what we have witnessed in just the past 72 hours, because day 3 of this war has marked the total collapse of every red line we once believed were immutable. We are no longer in a controlled conflict. We are in a state of total geopolitical chaos, where allies suspect one another, iron shields are punctured, and the entire Gulf has become a flaming minefield. When Mossad agents are allegedly arrested in Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and when Iran labels the Aramco attacks as false flag operations, trust, the most precious asset in any military alliance, has completely evaporated. If these allegations hold weight, then Israel is not only fighting Iran, but playing a dangerous game with the very Arab nations protecting their skies. This fracture is the single largest vulnerability that Tehran can exploit, far more dangerous than any ballistic missile. And folks, here is the final bottom line. When Donald Trump declares this the last best chance to eliminate the Tehran regime, he is betting the entire prestige of the United States on a campaign where time is no longer on our side. The fall of the Iron Dome in Tel Aviv and the strikes on U.S. bases in Dubai and Kuwait show that the adversary has learned to adapt to Western technological might. We are no longer facing a weak army, but a resistance network capable of strangling the planet's energy supply chain with the press of a button. Day 3 ends not with a diplomatic solution, but with the admission that the old world is dead, and we are entering a new era of warfare where no one is truly safe and no boundary is impassable.